global news update on top accolade news. Power is shifting, pressure is mounting, and the world feels on the edge. From Kim Jong-un's defiant vow on strength, to Macron's gamble in Paris, to drones in NATO airspace. Tonight's headline shows how politics, conflict, and culture collide. And at the heart of every story, the question of who really holds control. For headlines, North Korean leader reaffirms military strength and sovereignty. Emmanuel Macron appoints France's new prime minister. Nepal prime minister resigns. Supreme Court fast-tracked Trump's administration's appeal on global tariffs. We begin in Pyongyang, where Kim Jong-un used North Korea's founding anniversary to send a defiant message on strength and sovereignty to the world. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un declared on Wednesday that no force can threaten his country's status or security, speaking at a ceremony marking the 77th anniversary of the DPRK's founding. Kim praised North Korea's remarkable status and self-made progress towards prosperity, vowed to resist foreign influence, and referenced North Korea's troops supporting Russia in the Ukraine war. The speech highlighted the regime's emphasis on military strength, national dignity, and political independence. In a nation where rhetoric meets reality at the barrel of a gun, Kim's words serve as both a celebration and a stark reminder of Pyongyang's unyielding posture on the global stage. From one leader projecting defiance abroad to another scrambling for stability at home, France's Emmanuel Macron has turned to a trusted ally to steady a fragile government after his prime minister was ousted. President Emmanuel Macron named ally Sébastien Lecornu as France's new prime minister on Wednesday, following François Bayrou's ouster after a failed vote of confidence over proposed budget cuts. Lecornu, former armed forces minister, faces the urgent task of navigating France's 3.3 trillion euro public debt and building consensus in a huge parliament dominated by left, far-right and centrist blocs. While centrist ally welcomed the appointment, radical left and far-right leaders criticized it, and widespread anti-government protests are planned. As Macron entrusts the loyalists to stir a divided nation, France's political stability and economic future hang in delicate balance with the looming threat of fresh election if compromise fails. If France's challenge is holding a divided parliament together, Nepal's crisis is far more combustible, where anti-corruption protests have spiraled into violence and forced the prime minister to step down. Nepal erupted in chaos as anti-corruption protests led by Gen Z demonstrators turned violent, with parliament, government offices, and politicians' homes touched, prompting army patrols and nationwide curfews. Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli resigned on Tuesday, citing the need to restore order, while protesters said opportunistic infiltrators hijacked their peaceful movement. At least 27 arrests were made and firearms recovered as frustration over nepotism and corruption fuels unrest. In Kathmandu, the line between civic protest and anarchy has blurred, leaving the nation smoldering and its future uncertain. While Nepal wrestles with political upheaval, across the globe, the United States faces an economic showdown, one now heading to the Supreme Court, with Trump's global tariff at the center of a billion-dollar battle. The U.S. Supreme Court agreed on Tuesday to head the Trump administration's appeal, challenging lower court rulings that deemed the global tariff illegal, scheduling oral argument for the first week of November. Lower court had ruled the Trump administration exceeded Congress's authority under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act by imposing sweeping duties on imports, potentially requiring $750 billion to $1 trillion in refunds. The administration argued the delay would disrupt sensitive trade negotiations and threaten the economy, while the tariff remained in effect pending the Supreme Court's review. As the nation watches, the high-stakes legal battle could redefine the limits of presidential power over international trade, with the global economy hanging in the balance. You're watching the Global News Update on Top Accolade News. Do stay with us. Still to come. Thanks for staying with us. Donald Trump is once again wielding tariff as leverage, this time threatening India and China to tighten their economic news on Russia. US President Donald Trump signaled he is ready to impose 100% tariffs on energy imports from India and China if European partners set up efforts to economically pressure Russia over the Ukraine war. Speaking after a Washington meeting with EU and US officials, Trump emphasized the trade talks with India are progressing and expressed optimism about discussions with Prime Minister Narendra Modi, despite recent tensions over tariffs and penalties for India's Russian oil and weapons purchases. Modi responded positively, highlighting the close ties between the two countries. The move underscores Washington's high-stakes strategy, leveraging trade as a weapon to isolate Russia, even if it risks straining relations with key partners. As Washington turns trade into a weapon against Moscow, the war itself is spilling into NATO skies. Poland says Russian drones breached its airspace in what it calls an act of aggression. Poland said on early Wednesday that it, with NATO support, shot down 10 Russian drones that violated its airspace amid Moscow's attack on Ukraine, calling it an act of aggression. Flight at Warsaw's Chopin Airport was briefly suspended, and local authorities are investigating possible crash sites. EU Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas suggested the incursion was likely intentional, emphasizing solidarity with Poland. The Russian Defense Ministry claimed it downed 122 Ukrainian drones overnight, while Russia and Belarus prepared joint military drills starting on Friday. The incident highlights a dangerous escalation. Ukraine's war is increasingly spilling into NATO territory, turning European skies into a high-stakes flashpoint. To the bright lights of Hollywood, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is making headlines of his own, this time for a bold transformation that's turning heads at film festivals. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson revealed at the Toronto International Film Festival that he has shed his trademark bulk to play a whimsical character in Lizard Music based on Daniel Pinkwater's novel, after bulking up to portray UFC champion Mark Kerr in The Smashing Machine, while premiered to rave reviews in Venice. Johnson said his latest transformation is far from complete, but his willingness to reshape himself for widely different roles underscores his evolution from action star to serious actor. In Hollywood, few can flex muscles and metamorphosis quite like The Rock. Finally, in sports, Raven Saunders handed 30-month ban for whereabout failures. Olympic shot put silver medalist Raven Saunders has been handed a 30-month suspension by USADA for repeated whereabout failures, a second violation after an 18-month ban in 2023. The 29-year-old, who last competed at the Paris Olympics, now faces a career-defining setback, a reminder that even giants of the sport can stumble over the smallest details. From Pyongyang to Paris, from Warsaw skies to Hollywood stage, tonight we've seen leaders, nations, and icons fight to shape their futures. The through line is clear. Power is fragile, peace is constant, and resilience is only the currency that lasts. I am Ojorumi Okocha. Do have a wonderful day and keep watching the Global News Update on Top Accolade News.